I rather like music.
Yeah, I think we should join the music club.
Just in case I divert into anything that's inappropriate, then somebody just say something really quickly, because
That's not
the Kunal that you know and the Kunal that I know probably on the same person. He's a wonderful man, and anything I say is not meant to hurt, it's meant to inform. And particularly for Mutsumi, I've got some advice for you at the end, but I think you know pretty well how to handle Kunal already, so if you don't like it, it's probably not true. Anything I say, probably not true. But I think since we're here for Kunal's and Mutsumi's wedding, it would be good just to take a quick look at what would happen if Kunal hadn't come over to the US to study and hadn't met Mutsumi.
Oh God.
Because Kunal's blossoming early years of his love life were frankly not in his own hands. And I think probably the defining moment of Kunal's quest to find a lifetime partner actually fell to me when I decided to sign him up on a website called lovechase.com. Oh my God! Kunal and I had very serious minds, and at college we spent a lot of time dating, and we spent a lot of time just annoying each other and getting drunk, and apparently that hasn't changed since he came to Philadelphia. So at a certain point when we'd both moved off to London, I, with the help of other friends, decided that Kunal needed a bit of an internet profile. And I didn't want to involve him. He had a busy job in the bank and didn't have time to really contribute to what I wanted to write about him. So he had to, I guess, trust me to carry out this task. So I carefully selected a suitable picture and wrote some text and happily posted away on Lovechase, and I think several months later there'd been 0 hits, and I think the reason for this was that the photograph I'd chosen of Kunal was in fact culled from a website called Mullets Galore, and it was of an individual known as the Mulletard, who was a 300-pound Samoan man with mental deficiencies. And I really thought he got one with Kunal that was quite funny to look at. And the accompanying text sadly described Kunal to be something less than fully endowed with a brain, but very enthusiastic to meet women. This was all a fancy of my imagination, but I sent it to Kunal. Unfortunately, didn't give him the password to edit the site, so he was able to look but not touch. And I remember happily at law school one day, checking to see whether there'd been any hits, and a guy called Nicky Singler, who'd been at Winchester College at Kunal's secondary school, and Nicky was walking past the computer where I was at, and I thought, Nicky, you know Kunal, come and have a look at his website. I just found a dating profile for him. And Nicky walked past and looked at the picture of the Mulletard and didn't bat an eyelid and said, "My God, Kunal's let himself go, hasn't he?" So Kunal, for that, I'm sorry. If I'd been in charge, I don't think that we'd be at a wedding today. We'd probably be at some special needs event, eating very, very large portions and feeling rather sorry for you. Thankfully, that avenue was closed off, and instead I thought I'd take Kunal into a different kind of romantic world. Kunal had already kind of kicked off his typical undergraduate interest in dabbling with homosexuality on his first night at Oxford by getting to know one of the stars of the Oxford lesbian, gay and bisexual community, who was a very large and powerfully built rugby player in our college, who I think took a fancy to Kunal. In fact, took a fancy to several people in our year, and had a so-called hit list. And I don't remember whether or not Kunal was in the top 5, but I like to think that he was. Kunal, unfortunately, was so naive that he didn't respond to Rob's overtures, and that never blossomed into anything. But it certainly left an impression in Kunal's young and tender mind, and it came out to the fore 2 or 3 years later when one of our flatmates was going to celebrate his 21st birthday.
Oh my God.
He was at the time a rower, an academic, a very all-round jock who was going out with a rather horrible blonde girl who I deeply insulted the first time I met her. But anyway, fortunately that finished. But he was clearly straight, but this didn't deter Kunal from heading down to a bookshop in London and browsing the special interest erotica section, and pulling out the Mammoth Book of Gay Erotica, which he proceeded to buy. Apparently, with a little bit of an experiment when he arrived at the checkout till to pay for it, the smile he was given by the checkout girl suggested that she approved of Kunal's choice, and Kunal's broad grin as he looked at the cover suggested that he was looking forward to delving into the book. Kunal handed over the goods, which were duly left untouched in our shared kitchen for all of about 2 weeks until our middle-aged cleaner threw the thing out. Offended by it. So I thought that was it.
I thought that was it.
And until again, a couple of years down the line, Kunal been out and about and was clearly still weighing up where his interests lay, and we ended up on a night out in Brussels where I was living at the time and where Kunal's parents were based. And I forget whose suggestion it was, but I'd like to say it was Kunal's suggestion. I'm going to say it was Kunal's suggestion. So Kunal wanted to go to this particular nightclub that I didn't know, but he insisted on trying. And in Belgium, there's a strange scheme where for some clubs you have to become a member rather than just pay an entry fee. So we arrived at the door, paid a few euros, had some photos taken, gave addresses, and as you may know or don't know, Kunal's father has the same initials, so I filled in Kunal's address for him as Mr. K. Desco, 7 Avenue d'Italie in Excel, and then proceeded to head into the bar while Kunal checked our coats. And probably around the same millisecond that I opened the door, Kunal saw the man in the coat check queue in front of him starts passionately kissing the man taking the coats to the coat check queue, and I opened the door to a sea of leather and sweat and realised that Oxford education meant that we're both very tolerant, liberal individuals and we weren't going to leave just with a bit of prudishness. The next half hour was excruciating because Kunal insisted on rubbing my chest and looking around the room with his pursed lips saying, I think I'll look at you and I'm so proud to be here with you. So the interest was still there. Fortunately, Matsumi, Kunal didn't follow that path of liberalisation, liberalism, creativity, and he decided to come to business school. And as his parents also met at business school, it's rather appropriate that by the time he comes to the end of his studies at Wharton, he's going to be leaving with a wife, and a beautiful wife at that. And we're very proud of him for that. But this is where I go to the advice, because however much you know Kunal and have got